Welcome to another episode of It Had to Be Said podcast, where we say out loud what you think in private. And I want to start off today's podcast by saying no matter how much sacrifice you make, no matter how much you do for other people, whether it's a relationship, family member, or friend, nobody in this world owes you jack squat based on what you've done for them, what sacrifices you made for them. They don't owe you anything. Any sacrifice, anything that you do for people, consider it a form of voluntary giving. Because a lot of times we get confused about that. A lot of times we think that I'm going to be really good to this person and this person's going to love me back in return. Or I'm going to do this for this person, and when my time of need comes, they're going to be right there for me. And it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. This is why it's so important that you pick who you decide. You pick very carefully who's going to be your friend, who you're going to be in a relationship with. You cannot pick your family, but you can choose who you keep in your inner circle. All right. I've seen so many people make so many sacrifices, and at the end of the day, they walk away with very little to nothing. And I'm not saying you shouldn't help people, you shouldn't be there for people, you shouldn't have people's back. But what I am saying is be careful who you pick or who you choose to do for. Because there are some people you can do for them, and at the end of the day, they look at it like this is what was expected, and they don't feel like they owe you anything. They don't have to do anything for you. And you can't get upset with them. You can't get mad at them, because if you pay attention to their situation and you pay attention to who else is around them or who else is not around them, that tells you a lot. Like, I work here in an office where we lend people money. And some of the people I see coming here to borrow money, I sit there and say, well, for that little bit amount, don't you have a family member or a friend or somebody who can help you out with that? But in talking to the people or getting to see their personalities, you come to realize they've probably already burned every single bridge there is. This is somebody who is really ungrateful. And the funny thing about it is, when I look at a lot of my loans, like the ones that defaulted, and the people that are not paying, whether it's for weeks, months, or even years. As a matter of fact, I had somebody who hadn't paid us for 6 years, and then they were in the process of buying a home. So then they had to come into the office to make the payment to get it off their credit. And this person came in after 6 years, and I said, "Hey, look, you haven't paid us for like over 2,300 something days. What we're gonna do is we're only gonna charge you 2 months worth of interest, and pay us back our principal, because I understand you're in the process of probably purchasing a home. So I want to make things as easy as possible for you." The person, they got upset at me, and they were like, why can't you just take this much money? And they felt like they were entitled to that discount, to that huge discount. And they felt that I should have been satisfied with that. They got a loan from us and they never made one payment for 6 years. Not one payment. And I came in to realize this is probably why they came in to get the loan. This is why even now, they're still struggling and nobody's willing to help them. And they were in the process of trying to buy a house, and they didn't even have the money for the down payment. They just was in the process of starting to clean up their stuff, right? You know, people like that, no matter what no matter how good you are to them, no matter how much you try to help them, that sense of entitlement is really what messes them up. So, in my own personal life, that's a lesson that I kind of learned a little later on in life, which is in my personal life, whether it's family members, friends, or anyone I date. Don't expect anything from the person you're with. If I make a sacrifice or I do something for you, I do it. I don't expect you to make the same level of sacrifice or understand the sacrifice that I made for you, because not everybody will. You know, there are people that have been in serious relationships. There are people that have, you know, put their house mortgage money on the line to help out a family member or a friend. And at the end of the day, that person never comes in, never comes through and pay them back. You know, you have you have people that become stepfathers and they raise other people's kids, and the woman is not grateful for it at all. They're just like, okay, you chose that. You have women that become stepmothers, and they help raise a kid, and then at the end of the day, the guy can just pick up and walk away with his kid, you know leaving that person just hanging dry, like they were just there for the moment. People will take advantage of you if you allow them to. Now, I'm not saying to go out there and be a mean person or to be an a-hole, but what I am saying is, if you expect a return on your investment and you don't want to waste your time, you have to scrutinize the people that you keep around you, scrutinize the person you decide to be with, because you don't want to spend 5, 10 years worth of friendship or even more with someone, whether it's relationship or friendship. And then, when you run into a tough situation, that person just looks at you like, oh, well, you can deal with it. We've all been there, you know? And this is why I always say, smart person learns from their mistakes. A wise person pays attention to other people and watch other people make the mistake and say, I don't think I'm going to make that mistake. And that's one of the whole purposes of this podcast, is to make people think and to make people aware of, look, most of us, we know who's a good friend. We know who's a good person to be in a relationship with. We know if we're dealing with a bullshit person who's as a friend or a family member or a loved one. It's just that for some unknown strange reason, we just choose not to get rid of that person or to cut them out of our lives. And if you don't, anything that happens to you after that is not their fault. It's your fault, because you chose to keep them in your circle. My name is Adley Telford. I post new podcasts every Tuesday and Thursdays. Ladies and gentlemen, good night.